Hi everyone, welcome to Dominion Today. Today we're going to do part 2 of creating safe places for love to grow. So today what we're going to touch on is the issue of trust, and just kind of a question for you to be thinking about while the break is going on. But what can I do? Have you ever thought about that? What can I do to regain trust with someone with whom I have broken trust? So watch this and we'll be right back.
What language do you use when talking to yourself? Is it the same you use to speak to your grandmother? Quizás el mismo cuando tu equipo favorito gana el juego. What language does that new outfit use when it speaks to you? In what language sueña tu cariñito? ¿Habla tu mascota o best friend? What is our love language? ¿Qué lenguajes son sus sábados o domingos? Presentando the first of its kind, a TV channel dirigido a la familia, designed for a new generation that are bilingual, but todavía ama a nuestra bella cultura. Presenting Canal Nueva Vida, the first and only family-friendly canal bilingüe in South Carolina. Help us make history.
Welcome back. So today we're talking about the issue of trust, right? And the question that we left off with, what can I do to regain trust with someone with whom I have broken trust? Trust has to be built every day. And sometimes it can be easily given. You know, sometimes we can meet somebody and we feel like we've been friends forever, right? And we just kind of hand off that trust really fast. But if you notice, once trust is broken, whether you've known that person for a short amount of time or a long time, someone that you're married to or your children, once that trust is broken, it's so hard to get it back. Mm-hmm. And there's two parts to that. Sometimes we just make it really difficult for that person to earn it back. And then sometimes maybe our own commitment to establish trust again is just a long road, just because it is, you know?
Well, creating a safe place is all about having trust within that location, that place, right? Where love can grow. Love can't grow where there is no trust. It's a simple fact. It will not. If for example, if you have the highest level of distrust, which is, adultery within a marriage, we can talk about family, right? Adultery within a marriage, which is the highest level of distrust within a couple, love has been broken. There may be still an affection between the two, but the true essence or the real depth of that love has been compromised because of the distrust, because of the failure of that confidence or trust that was given to that person. And so within building a safe place or creating a safe place where love can flourish, where love can grow, trust has to be key. And as she said, it's the old adage, it's a very quick to gain trust, and one moment of distrust can lose it for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so, that type of thought pattern is unfortunately true because as human beings, that's how we react. When people do us wrong, when something happens in our lives that causes us to lose trust in somebody. Mm-hmm. In the family household or in the actual household, if, for example, a young teenager, you give them permission to go out, and that young teenager goes out and you give him time to come back and he doesn't come back, or he comes back inebriated because he's drunk and what have you, there's a certain level of trust as you as a parent has now been broken. Mm-hmm. But if you've created a safe place, if you have not created, let's put it that way, if you have not created a safe place, you won't be able to have a clear conversation with that young person even the following day. But if you've created a safe place where trust can actually be restored through a process, then you can have that conversation with him or her and let them know, look, you've broken my trust. I've given you my trust, but you've broken it, and now you're going to have to rebuild it. And if that safe place is there, that person, that young child or young teenager, will have a repentive heart, and maybe even break down and apologize right there in the moment. If there's not a safe place, you can see it through how that child or how that teenager reacts. If he or she reacts in rebellion, then you haven't created a safe place for communication to occur and for love to flourish. It's the reality of it. I'm not trying to call you out on anything. I'm just like maybe shine the light on some things that may need to be changed. But it is key, and you have to understand that trust within the relationship and a safe place is absolutely essential, not only in a marriage, but even with our children, even our children with us. Trust is a two-way street. And so if we expect our teenager to own up to the trust that we give to him or her, then guess what? We have to own up to the trust that we give to him or her. I mean, vice versa. You understand? So if they trust us to do something, to be somewhere, to get something for them, or whatever it may be, the moment you disvalue and cause that distrust to occur, guess what? You have now created an unsafe place, because now that child or that teenager is going to look at you through those eyes of distrust until you start to rebuild it. And for a parent to rebuild trust with their child is close to impossible. It's not impossible, but it is close to impossible. Why? Because unfortunately, teenagers, I can say in Spanish,
are resentful.
Hold resentment. Hold resent for long times. We're bilingual, so we go back and forth. And anyway, they're resentful sometimes. And they know how to hold that resentment for a long time and not let go of it. And so that's the key issue. Now, if that has occurred and your child is out there acting rebellious and doing things that he or she should not be doing, then you may need to sit back and do a self-evaluation and find out if you have done something to displace the trust with him or her.
Okay, that's a great segue for this scripture.
Okay.
So this is Proverbs 18:8, and it says, "The words of a whisperer," or some versions say gossip, "are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body." Within our family, we know what it's like, and I'm not just saying our family, every family knows what it's like to share a little bit of juicy gossip. Unfortunately, American culture just kind of shows us who we are, and that we are given to want to know what the latest gossip is on celebrities, on what's going on in reality TV and all that. It just kind of lends to showing us that we really want to know. We want to know what's going on in somebody else's life. We want to know, hey, maybe somebody has it worse than we do. But within the family, the example that you're giving, that when a parent loses, or when a child loses trust in a parent, gossip is a great example, and I will explain. Sometimes when we as parents vent with somebody else, I understand that every parent needs to vent. I totally get that. Good. But when we are on the phone with our girlfriend, when we are on the phone with whoever else it is, and we're talking about all of the complaints that we have about our child, or maybe we share with that person in confidence what our child shared with us, that they said, "But Mom, promise me you won't tell anybody." And here you are telling that person, and that child is somewhere in the room, in the hallway, somewhere else in the home, and they get a whiff that you've told their secret. I mean, wow, that is so damaging. And I can't pinpoint an example in my memory, but I can pretty much say I've been guilty of that. Again, because in the spirit of wanting to be either transparent with a friend, or in the necessity to vent with somebody else, because I'm so frustrated, or whatever emotion I was feeling in that moment, and I say a little more than I should have, and then my child finds out about it, then definitely that trust is compromised. And so sometimes, like you were saying a moment ago, maybe we have to go to our child and say, "Hey, I really messed up, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't keep discretion on what you told me. Plain and simple, I was gossiping. I thought it would be okay to tell so and so, but hey, like anything else, like anything with someone that, maybe you share it with somebody that can't be trusted, and then what you thought was going to be venting to one person turns out to another and another and another, and then before you know it,
it's on the newscast.
Yeah, everybody knows.
So now the other part of that is the opposite side of that. Is the understanding that when a trust has been lost, no one has the right to demand forgiveness automatically. No one has the right to demand forgiveness automatically. Let me explain this, because I know theologically that may wreck you a little bit, but let me explain a little bit more of what that's all about. Here's the deal. Trust is lost. It is a process to rebuild that trust. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that when you walk in, and give you an example that she just used, you walk into your teenager's room and you say, look, Johnny, I really messed up. I gossip. I apologize. I am so sorry. That automatically, if you will, that teenager is going to say, okay, we're good. I'll trust you all over again. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. You see, what many people fail to understand is that there's the ministry of reconciliation and then there's restoration. The ministry of reconciliation is manifested in the act of forgiveness. However, the process of restoration can take a while. All right, I'm going to repeat that again because I know that may wreck you guys. At the moment of ministry of reconciliation, that is forgiveness. That's where forgiveness is exemplified. But then there's a process of restoration. Reconciliation is between two people. Restoration involves not only two people, but also God. And God will give that person the new confidence needed to restore the trust in you that you have lost with that person. But that is between God and that person. You have no play in there anymore because you've misused or lost that trust. And so it is between God and that person. You do your part and you go and ask for forgiveness, but now God takes over and says, okay, my son, my daughter has exemplified forgiveness and operating in the ministry of reconciliation. I'm going to start the process of restoration. And that requires a little bit more on your part as well. Start to, rebuild that trust, and give opportunity to rebuild that trust. All right. But yet that process of restoration shouldn't take a lifetime either. Just to give you, a full understanding there. It doesn't, if you offend your child when he's 13 years old, that doesn't mean he stays on until he's 45 years old and you're, on your deathbed type thing. And finally he begins to trust you all over again. No, it should not be that way. Oftentimes it can be, but it's not.
In essence, what you're saying is that when the person who is the offender goes and repents and asks forgiveness of the other person that they've hurt, they don't have control over whether that person forgives them or not. And they don't have the right to expect that person will forgive them. You can hope, right, that, hey, I am humbled, I am so sorry, would you please forgive me? That's your part in it, right? If you're the offender, that's your part in it. The other part is up to that person. And so to try to say, well, you should forgive me. I mean, I'm coming here, apologizing and I'm repenting. You should forgive me.
Even with that attitude, and even though you use the word, I'm humbled. I'm before the Lord and I'm humbled. I'm broken before the Lord and I'm asking you forgiveness. No, you ain't. If we need to mention that, you ain't.
I am so proud of myself for being humble right now.
Well, listen, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and we're going to delve and we're going to wrap a bow around this thing and present it to you guys, because creating a safe place where love can grow is absolutely key in your life and your family's life. And so we'll be right back after this. You're blessed. Welcome back. We've spoken a lot about this creating a safe place for love to grow, and I'm trying to be a little bit monotone because what I'm going to share with you is going to be a little challenging right now for you. in hopes that this will, wrap a bow around this whole thing and get you to understand the importance of creating a safe place in your home. We talked about rebuilding trust after the trust has been lost. And now we're going to talk about something that is kind of near and dear, but we're going to talk about really honor. One of the key things within creating a safe place where love can grow, aside from trust, aside from, what was the other one that we have mentioned thus far? Be appreciative of differences of others, is honor. Honoring the person that's by your side. Yeah. Honoring them. And it's extremely important that we understand that concept. Now, before we go into that part of honoring, one of the other things is that we need to discuss this, is the fact that, when we talk about forgiveness just a moment ago, oftentimes the reaction of a person is defensive. In other words, what they do is they actually build up a wall in front of you. And that actually becomes what we call their armor. And so we have to understand that some people have that armor around them, whether it be because of a loss of trust on our part or loss of trust on somebody else's part, or even someone not being appreciative of them. They build a wall. They build that wall, and they protect that wall, and they want to make sure that wall is there, and don't allow anybody beyond that wall. And oftentimes we, as even believers who are filled with compassion, who want to really have a relationship with people, oftentimes we want to walk in with a sledgehammer and break down the wall. Well, that is the worst thing that you can do. We have to understand and honor that wall, because something has occurred in that person's life to where they have built that wall. And the only one that's going to bring down that wall is Jesus himself. Yeah. Not you. Yes, you can try to forge a relationship with the person, and that may actually help a little bit. But the only person that's going to bring down that wall effectively is God, Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ himself. And I'm not talking about in the full incarnate persona, but you understand what I'm saying. It's going to take God involvement into breaking down that wall. And so we have to understand that wall is there, or that armor is there for their own protection. They want to protect themselves. They want to make sure that they're not going to get hurt again. And oftentimes many people, sometimes even us, make what I call silent covenants. And we say, never again am I going to believe that person, or never again am I going to allow that to happen. Well, what you've just done is build a wall. Yeah. Yep. You have built a wall right in front, and you're not going to allow anybody in with that declaration and that statement. Go ahead. And
also, in recognizing that wall is there, we have to be respectful of it, because as we have talked in programs previously, boundaries is a big deal. And when we respect that wall and we say, okay, I recognize that wall is there for a reason. I may or may not be the reason that wall is there, but I'm going to respect it, and I'm just going to trust God, that he's working on it. And also that person has a part to play in bringing down that wall. But again, just respecting that wall is there for a reason, and giving that person the space to work it out, and respecting that boundary.
Let me give you a tidbit here. If you're seeing that wall, it's probably because that person don't feel safe in your presence. Yeah. That's the only reason you're seeing that wall.
And it's so hard not to take it personal.
And extremely hard not to take it personal. Extremely hard. Especially if you have just a heart for people, if you have a heart for relationship, it is extremely hard not to take it personal. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's easy. It is not. Especially, like I said, if you have a heart for people, if you have a heart and compassion for people, you want to see them healed, you want to see them restored, and even leadership and ministry. I mean, you always have that different gambit of people that you deal with, and so within there, you have to understand that wall is there for a reason. Yeah. And you have to honor that and respect it, and allow God to do what he needs to do in that person's life to tear down that wall.
And as we're talking about this right now, the best example that is coming to mind, if any of you guys watching have cared for foster children, you know exactly what we're talking about. Because children come into your care with a wounded heart, and they've got walls up. Yep. You're thinking with the best of intention, I'm going to be this great mom and this great dad, and I'm going to create the best atmosphere for nurturing and learning and love. And man, you just come with the best intention, but you're just coming up against this little person with the hardest heart. And so what do? You respect that wall, you honor that wall, you recognize that it's there for a reason, and you pray. And you pray. One of the things that in talking about trust that I really thought was important, that I didn't want to let time go before I brought it up, was to ask that person, what can I do to regain your trust? So maybe when you come across someone that has a wall, you can ask questions. Okay, what can I do so that you will understand that I won't hurt you? What can I do so that so that you let me in?
And even with that, even with those types of questions, you need to have discernment. If you see the person is not obviously open to anything, then don't ask the question, because you can, like a better phrase, you're just going to tick them off even more. Just be real. You are.
What do you mean? I don't have a wall.
What do you mean? I don't have an issue. Yeah, you do, but all right. Love you, man. Talk to you later. See ya. So use a little bit of discernment. What we're sharing with you doesn't operate in a vacuum. And just understand that that can be the case. All right. In these last 6 minutes that we have, I want to share with you some real key practical ways that you can actually build a safe place in your home where love can grow. And these are probably, aside from what we shared already, these are probably huge, key in every type of relationship that you have. All right. And it goes back to that word honor. Honoring the person that's by your side. How do you honor the person that's by your side? Well, I remember when we talk about hardness of heart, it was actually last 2 weeks ago, we talked about hardness of heart. And one of the things that we shared is that, look, the way you win over your child's heart is to show them that you appreciate them, to show them that you wanna be with them, but perhaps you can't because of X obligations that you may have. Well, how about, and this may rock your world and may totally change your mindset about certain things. In fact, you may write me letters about that. It's crazy. I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm going to ask you, hold on to the letter. Don't send it yet.
Save your stamp.
Do it first. Do it first on a consistent basis. And then write me. And I will receive it and we'll chat. If we want to chat, that's perfectly fine. All right? I will commit to that. The first one, celebrate. Celebrate your family. Listen, man of God, if you're sitting there watching TV and your spouse is next to you and your spouse comes in from work, all right, and you're watching TV, stop the TV, jump up and celebrate the fact that your wife has come home. It doesn't have to be a big old celebration. Maybe in the beginning you just get up, stop and kiss her and hug her and that's it. You know what I'm saying? But maybe later on you can surprise her and, put on music and start dancing and make a celebration out of it. And that leads to my next suggestion. As parents, celebrate your kids coming home. I challenge you to do that. Many times, like we talked about in the other previous episode, many times the kids come home and we say, you need to get this done, you need to get this done, you need to get this done, and we don't show appreciation for them or even honor. But yet, how about for the next week, every time they come home and you're home, you stop what you're doing, crank up some music, dance around with them. The first 2 days, maybe, they may look at you totally strange, like, what in the world is wrong with her? What in the world is wrong with him, especially if it's dad? Because, dads have an image to uphold, so to speak. And so can you imagine what can happen when a child actually enjoys coming home? Yeah. When a husband actually enjoys coming home. Yeah. When a wife actually enjoys coming, looks forward to walking through that door because he or she knows that they are going to be celebrated the moment they walk into that door. Look, not to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not to be, not to talk about death, not to be...
morbid?
Morbid, yeah, thank you. Wow. Not to be morbid, but there are many families that don't have their significant other walk through the door because of an issue that has happened out in the streets. Why not celebrate your loved one that comes through the door? Why not?
Yeah.
What is stopping you? It costs you nothing except a little bit of time and perhaps a bit of pride to be put aside. That's all it costs you.
Okay, so as this is the first example that comes to my mind visually, right? One of the signs that I find, we visited a lot of church in the last 10 years, a lot of churches, churches that have been around for a long time, churches that are church plants and they're new and they're just thriving. One of the things that I have seen, especially in a church that is thriving, is that the greeters, the volunteers are trained to say things like, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so happy to see you. Because you might be watching and going, I'm not going to turn on music and be all cheesy and corny. Okay, that's cool, you know. Everyone has to start somewhere. So what about you just say, hey, sweetheart, I'm so happy to see you. I'm so happy you're here. You know, you don't know what kind of day that other person in your family has had walking through that door. Yes, the life of a child in 3rd grade can be rough, you know. Maybe you might not think it's a hard day, but for that little 3rd grader, they had a hard day. And they need a hug, and they need to be embraced, and they need to be told, I'm so glad you're here.
You know, I heard someone say in their heart just now, my kids don't know the day that I had. Well, yes, my brother, my sister, you're right. They don't. And you know what else? They don't need to.
Yeah.
Because you're the adult. They're the child. They don't need to know how your day went. I'm just going to leave that one there. Because there's not much else to say. You know,
Yeah.
your children are the ones that you are setting an example for. They are not setting the example for you. You set the example for them.
Yeah.
And so if they don't know what kind of day that you had, okay. Put you aside for a moment and honor your kids. And I even guarantee you that will make your day within itself.
Yeah.
Now, sad to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Sad to say, but
Time's up.
our time is up. We got 10, 9, 8, 7. We're counting down right now.
Happy New Year.
We just want to tell you that you were designed for dominion today.
Yes.
Until the next time, we love you. We appreciate you. You're blessed.